Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am actually doing my first lore theory video about the Roblox game Pressure. Now real quick, if you don't know what Pressure is, it's basically a Doors inspired game. You go through 100 randomly generated rooms while trying to survive different entities in an underwater place called the Hedao Black Site. Basically the main plot of the game is that you're a prisoner sent by a corporation to secure the Hedao Black Site. I hope I'm saying that right. And contain as many loose assets as you can to get time off of your prison sentence. Of course, this comes with the downside of the entities you will have to deal with. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and quickly read each case file of each of the entities, which are the enemies that kill you in the game, and the obstacles you encounter throughout the level. The Saboteur, Z13, new codename, The Saboteur, previous codename, Handyman, real name, Sebastian Solis, is to be killed on sight without hesitation. The Z13 is incredibly dangerous. Caution is required if encountered. His size, Z13 is incredibly nimble, allowing him to quickly outmaneuver and flank operatives. It should also be noted that Z13 is currently in possession of our experimental portal scrambler, meaning that any and all CCTV, radios, and other communication equipment will be rendered offline with a blank-by-blank stud radius of his presence. Operatives must conduct a communications check with HQ every 5 minutes to ensure they are not within range of the scrambler. HQ cannot be reached. Operatives should remain on high alert for a possible ambush whilst attempting to check in as often as possible. After feigning the effects of anesthesia, Z13 pretended to succumb and woke up unguarded during transport. He killed elite guardsmen, acquiring a clearance keycard, and proceeded to release as many monsters as possible from their containment cells during the worldwide lockdown. And reconfiguring the portal scrambler. CCTV captured Z13 trading stolen items for research findings from XRP Expedition party members. Broadcast to the Innovation Inc., Blockstop, Deluge Labs, and Pinewood suggests he is gathering confidential Urban Shade information to leverage a way out with a rival organization. Although uncertain if he continues to trade with incoming parties, it is highly probable in early 2015. Z13 was selected to be part of an experiment to give humans gills using DNA strands from a blue whale, a sea snake, shark, and a female anglerfish, a silver spiny fin, and a santis shrimp. Whilst the experimentation was a success and Z13 gained the ability to breathe underwater, the obvious visual and bodily side effects left much to be desired. Effects were quickly ironed out and refined on future test subjects, and the gill procedure was quickly applied to all the guardsmen working the Black Site. The initial periods following the experimentation are the optimal times to reverse physical side effects. This was not deemed necessary for Z13 due to his LRP status. His monstrous appearance, characteristics, and ability led to his classification as Z13. After this experiment, seeing no further use for him and testing, Z13 was assigned to underwater equipment maintenance. In 2015, it was discovered that Z13 had not killed the 9 individuals he's accused of. At this revelation, it was not decided to inform Z13 to release him to the public, as he was legally declared deceased. At this stage, reversing the mutations was no longer feasible, as the opportunity to do so had long passed. However, his rank was changed to MRP, providing him with better living conditions and access to recreational programs available to MRP. Circumstances can Z13 be allowed to leave the Black Site alive. If any operative encounters Z13, they must abandon their previous objectives and, as Mr. Shade himself stated, shred their mags until their trigger finger bleeds. Alright, the first few details you might have noticed from this document is that this company is extremely corrupt. Which one isn't? What company isn't? But still. Anyways, to sum it up, if you don't want to watch it and you skip to this part, basically, Z13 was an innocent man who was convicted of killing 9 people and transferred to the Hedao Black Site. He was imprisoned and sentenced to death. However, instead they experimented on him and gave him fish-like features along with the ability to breathe underwater, giving him a monster and superior appearance, too. However, a little while after, they were informed that he was actually an innocent man that they wrongfully sentenced. They decided not to tell him this and just upgraded his status to MRP. Now, some of the immediate things we can see from this company is they are extremely shady, using some sort of animal and human testing, along with taking innocent and criminal individuals to test on, even with the knowledge of whether they're criminals or not. Let's go ahead and move on to the second file. Pandemonium. Pandemonium, C367, codename Pandemonium, was originally discovered submerged near a thermal vent within the Let Van zone during initial evacuation of the Hadale Black Site. According to molecular data received from compositional analysis, 367's body is structurally similar to decomposing organic tissue and synthetic polymers, alike to plastic with trace elements of various man-made metals. All attempts to clarify the cellular anatomy of C63's flesh have ended in negative results, as C367 shows no observable signs of life. Its body remains in a perpetual state of decomposition by some unknown mechanism, noted through the consistent presence of mold and other erosive agents discovered in biological analysis. The Bioprofessional Division has postulated that it collects fresh mass from external sources through consumption, thus remaining intact anomalously. It possesses an indeterminate number of internal eyes, which appear to function as though alive, though the explanation behind these ocular organs have remained unknown. As the Hazard and Ethics Division has deemed further study too dangerous at this time, C367 is capable of rudimentary movement by unknown means, observed to float midair at a maximum of approximately 1 meter above solid surfaces. Top speed is somewhat consistent to that of a mid-sized marine. So basically, Pandemonium is a creature constantly in a state of decomposition made of plastics, metals, and other man-made materials. And it always floats approximately 1 meter above solid surfaces and can swim as fast as a mid-sized marine. As we can see from this one, there was an emergency a little while ago involving the Hadal Black Site in which entities broke out, presumably caused by the saboteur. However, from this and other entries, we can also determine that the organization, Urban Shade, behind this whole thing, actually seems to enjoy researching these creatures. Let's get to get more information. Let's go and get to the next one. The document is entitled Good People. This document was written on short notice to give a quick rundown of the threat to any operatives heading back down to the Black Site. C96 and C779 duel, simply dubbed Good People by operatives, is one of the many hazards you may encounter during any Black Site visits during operations. 35 minutes after the initial Black Site lockdown, C13 broke into the containment chamber containing C96. The Mask of Sadness took it with him, encountering Dr. Blank, and forced the mask onto his face. Starting the MOSA proceeds. Refer to the Mask of Sadness document for further information. After its initial but short rampage, Z96 had assimilated 108 victims, including Dr. Kleiner, Dr. Blank, Section Director Phobos, and Overseer Murner. Near the end of the rampage, Z96 encountered Guardsman Henry Blank, who shot and hit the blob several times. Z96 quickly fled from the area before Henry could even empty his gun's magazine. After that encounter, Z96 hunkered down in an empty room and started to properly digest his mask. It has not tried to do another direct confrontation since. So to sum this one up, basically the Good People is a group of two entities: a blob of flesh and a fake door sign. Basically, in the game, their function is to trick players into choosing the wrong door. You can tell which one is fake because the door will either have sparking on the sign, stay on when the lights are off, or will have growling or breathing behind it. And during its initial rampage, it broke out and stole the Mask of Sadness, one we will cover in a couple minutes, and forced it onto a doctor's face before killing 108 people, and eventually being stopped by Dr. Henry, who shot him multiple times. See, from this one, most of these documents were actually made just for people who would be sent down into the Black Site. inform them of the dangers that we would be dealing with down here. So that was the good people. On to the next one. Ifestation. The 317 codename Ifestation was a bull shark used in the SUP-WM program. The SUP-WM program was an experiment to allow an individual to kill someone telepathically through eye contact by beaming highly radioactive waves through a victim's optic nerve, causing their brain to melt inside of their head. The experiment consisted of gouging out the eyeballs of the patient and placing them in a jar of genetically altered rotten coral for 18 hours before surgically implanting them back into the patient. For the procedure to work properly, the patient conscious the entire time and must not be put under the effects of anesthesia, painkillers, or any other forms of drugs that alter the patient's brain chemistry. Z317 is the first successful experiment from this program. Basically, to sum it up, they experimented on a bull shark by injecting it with rotten eyeballs and coral to give it the ability to telepathically melt someone's brain. This obviously gives it other telepathic abilities, however, which was not intended. For example, it can force you to look at it. It's extremely weak and you can easily fight it, but still, it can force you to look at it and it can telepathically talk to whoever it's hunting. After the facility breakdown, it did not actually leave and continued to stay at the facility, hunting for members of the company. You can encounter this enemy in the game multiple times and it will force you to look at it. You have to fight back and move through the doors, which will make it despawn. Anyways, on to the next one. The squiddles. Notice there has not been given any official designation for the species, as they were only captured and transported to the black site 2 days before the lockdown. The species has been given an unofficial designation, SQ. SQ, codenamed Squiddles, is an as-of-yet unknown species. They were discovered on the blank G-class cargo ship after they had broadcast the distress signal in the middle of the night in the general area of Trench Mahari. After rescue ships failed to respond, and with no storms or hurricanes that could have disrupted the rescue operation, Urban Shade operatives were soon sent after to investigate, in case it was an as-of-yet unreported containment breach or a creature from the Let Van Zone. No, yeah, that's right. That had somehow made it to the surface. When the operatives found the ships, they found that the power was out, the majority of the crew were dead, and there were only a handful of survivors left. They also found an estimated 600 SQ instances. They were rounded into containers and taken to the black site for documentation. The blank and the rescue ships were sunk. The survivors were executed, and a cover-up story saying that they were lost in a non-existent storm was given to the public. Now, this one actually gives us a lot more information about what they're willing to do to contain any information about these creatures and where they come from. But our first quick summary. Basically, a ship went off radar one day and went missing, along with a distress signal being sent. After the rescue ships were unheard from, the Urban Shade jumped in to investigate to make sure it wasn't a new creature or an escaped one. When they came, the power was out, all the ships were sunk, 600 were dead. They killed the last survivors. No, there were 600 squiddles, but yeah, they killed all the survivors, executed them, and made a cover-up story about a storm, killing all of them. Very obviously, the storm doesn't exist. As we can see in this one, there's actually a place called the Let Van Zone, where the creatures seem to originate from for some reason. We also see more of what the Urban Shade is willing to do to keep this all a secret, executing hundreds of innocent people for no actual reason. Let's move on to the next creature. The Wall Dwellers, aka Z90, codename Wall Dwellers, a species of armless humanoids with a layer of drywall covering their frontal bodies. They were originally discovered in the abandoned blank office complex in Los Angeles. They're a group of 4 online influencers who had gone in to vandalize the property were all reported missing. 2 police officers from the local department were sent to investigate and reported armless wooden humans, which was enough to scare them off and have them call for backup. Urban Shade operatives were soon sent to investigate and discovered the Z90 species. The bodies of the online influencers were never found, as they had assumedly all been eaten. A handheld camera was found containing video evidence of the influencers being hunted and killed by several Z90 instances. These recordings were destroyed at the request of Operative Blank, not because they contained any confidential information, but simply because the personalities in the recordings were super obnoxious and incredibly annoying. Why did they add this? Deaths were blamed on structural decay, where the rotten wooden floor had collapsed under the group, causing them to fall 3 stories to their deaths. A total of 29 Z90 instances were captured and brought to the black site for study. Basically, to sum it up, a group of influencers went missing into a building that they were going to vandalize, and police officers sent. They reported seeing wooden humanoid creatures in the walls and left immediately after. The Urban Shade sent in some operatives, and they found the Z90 instances, aka the wall dwellers, who hide in walls, who had killed the influencers. We also see a lot more moral ambiguity in this one, as they destroyed the video of the influencers being hunted and killed because they were, quote, annoying and obnoxious, along with creating a cover story about the teens falling through a wooden rotten floor to their deaths. Anyways, on to the next monster, the Multi-Monster. A60, codenamed the Multi-Monster, was this document will never be unredacted. And then this one, it's just a bunch of creepy drawings. I have no idea about this one, or really the lore aspects, but yeah, there are a few weird documents in here. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. The Death Angel, we have no idea, blank blank. Anyways, the next one is the normal one, and probably one of the most common entities you will encounter in the game, so let's get to it. The Angler, Z283, codename Angler, was originally found at the bottom of the Let Van Zone during the initial expedition and excavation for the Hedale Black Site. The creature is comprised of a cloud of black and dark blue smoke. Within the smoke, a face can be observed in the shape of a stereotypical deep-sea anglerfish. No matter which angle Z283 is observed at, the face will always face at the observer, even if observed from multiple angles at once. Each person reported that they were seeing the face in the smoke. This also happens for any type of camera equipment. Why this happens is as of yet unknown and unexplained. Z283 is incredibly fast, but it's also partially blind, because the Z283 is constantly emitting an incredibly loud scream that it uses to echolocate through its surroundings. During the initial capture, operatives discovered that even if initial eye contact is made from afar, getting out of sight before it reaches you, your location will have it simply pass by you. Same thing can't be said if you're in line of sight and before it reaches you, in which case its echoes will bounce off you and it will move in for the kill. So there wasn't much of a story with this one like there was with others, but to basically sum it up, it was found during the construction of the Hedale Black Site at the Vet Land Zone. Probably one of the first creatures they ever found. However, the class of the creature, classification of the creature, obviously implies otherwise. Actually learned too much about their moral ambiguity with this one, only that they're housing this creature somewhere and escaped during the breakout. Anyways, to the next creature, which is much simpler and probably has more lore involved. The Puddles of Void Mass, the second most common creature you will actually encounter in the game. CVO6, aka Puddles from the Void Mass, are clumps of sentient puddle spawns from CVO. Refer to the Valkula Void Mass document for further information, which we will be reading later. 1 hour and 26 minutes of the lockdown protocol, Z13 disabled the discretion evaporation field inside its cell and opened the containment doors. Immediately after, ZVO started opening ZVO1 through 5 instances, as well as this new instance, ZVO6. Luckily, in his haste to cause even more property damage, Z13 forgot to turn off the evaporation floodlights contingency measure outside of the door, causing all the ZVO1 through 5 instances to evaporate as they tried to leave. However, new ZVO6 instances do not evaporate. This theory is that the new ZVO6 instance has evolved to withstand the effects of the ADE system. It is currently unknown why ZVO1 through 5 have not evolved in the same way. 17 minutes after the ADE system was turned off, Dr. Blank found his way into the control room and turned it back on. An estimated total of 62,000 to 67,000 instances are now loose in the Black Site. As you can see, this one didn't really help with lore too much, but we do know that they have developed multiple protocols to deal with the entities, including evaporation floodlights. The internal defense system is a series of mounted turrets attached to the ceiling and walls of the rooms of the black site, serving as the backup security systems. The internal defense system is designed to work best against humans and living organisms. Fitted with a laser targeting and body scanner, a spotlight and automatic reloads, and controlled by the Navi AI. Each turret diligently controlled by the Navi AI. Each turret diligently scans its designed area for possible threats. Urban Shade employees MRP and LRP should not have to worry, as the body scanner will automatically scan its whitelist record. However, the MRP and LRP have not been informed of this, as the constant fear of being gunned down by turret fires proved great in keeping them compliant. With 75.56 times 45 SS small stud rounds per ammo of magazine, each turret has the ability to deal damage to humans and creatures alike. Now, this doesn't actually tell us too much. All this really tells us is about something I said earlier, involving them creating multiple defense systems against the entities. It seems like they're incredibly well-versed in these and have been dealing with these a while, enough to have been able to create multiple defense systems. Anyways, on to the next one, which is the searchlights. The Vultus limera species, dubbed searchlights by personnel, is a species of whale-sized organisms found exclusively in the Let Van zone. They are speculated to have been around for 80 million years, as proven by skeletal remains found throughout the trench. An autopsy on the remains found throughout the trench, has shown that it's related to Echinodorus, which just goes to show how much it has evolved over the years. No Z classification has been evolved, due to them simply being considered wild animals. The average Vultus has 4 eyes located on its stomach. In between said eyes is a large gaping mouth with many rows of teeth. On the top front of its body is a heavily armored shell. On the back is what I can only describe as a spiked cluster. Its rear has 2 fins and a long tail that it uses for movement and stabilization. An estimated 350 Vultus are currently alive in the wetland. Now, this is actually really interesting and tells us a lot about these, as these seem to have evolved from normal creatures, maybe a few of them, like the anglerfish. Some are obviously genetic experiments by Urban Shade, but most of them seem to actually have evolved on their own from regular animals, weirdly enough, over hundreds to millions of years. This one is just like different electrical hazards to encounter. Same with this, just different underwater hazards. The external repellent system, it's a series of torpedo flak cannons dug into the trench's floor, built to allow for safe passage of our vessels to and from the black site. In 1977, 3 years after Black Site had finished construction, the veil of the Let Van zone was becoming overcrowded with severely disrupting logistics. Whilst the blank were present before the Let Van zone discovery, they weren't as prevalent or as close to the Black Site's area of construction. It's assumed that the vigorous amount of noise pollution from our transportation logistics had lured them closer to our area of operation. It's impossible to mount weaponry onto the submarines, as the pressure before they reached the veil would be too heavy for the new torpedo portholes, so another solution had to be found. Its construction beginning in the early 1977s and finishing in 1979, the external repellent system was constructed to safeguard the black site from different entities. The Pei AI Inter. C779, codenamed the Pei AI Inter, is a seemingly sentient AI art programming residing on a computer. Divine, C17, codename The Divine, is a species of humanoid people mainly made out of vines and other plant-based materials. The Z17 species is the main oxygen supplier of the black site, being allowed to live in small grassy pens located in oxygen garden sub-area C17. Instances inhale CO2 and exhale O2 at a rate much greater than regular trees. J123, codename The Mindscape, is an astral plane beyond our own border world. LRPs taken to J123 equipped with CCMMM cameras and proper radio equipment have described the plane as a white void with gigantic floating gears in the distance. The Trench Blader class Walker is built for one thing and one thing only, making as much money as possible. The Let Van zone is full of natural mineral nodes and oil pockets. Setting up rigs at each one would be incredibly expensive. The Trench Blader was built to fill the role of a mobile oil rig and mining platform, allowing us to bleed the trench dry for resources and cash. Now, this next one's kind of weird. My Analog Horror Christmas Tree, Z2512, codename My Analog Horror Christmas Tree, is the Christmas tree responsible for ruining Christmas. That's basically all you need to know. Yeah, it's just a Christmas tree. The Prisoner Diving Gear, PDG for short, is a modified diving backpack made with a remotely detonated modified shotgun shell that works underwater, pointed directly at the user's neck. Z96, codename The Mask of Sadness, is a smiling theater mask that, when worn, will take over a new user and melt off their body down to a sentient meat paste. Limited Time Imaginary Friend. Z432, codename Limited Time Imaginary Friend, is a toy remote consisting of a button that, when pushed, summons a horrid creature at a fixed 40-stud distance from the individual that is always visible, regardless of obstructions. Okay, this one's a little horrifying. My Beautiful Wife, C1223, codename My Wife, is the headless, skinless corpse of my wife, strung up to a metal detainer. It's currently unknown how or when my wife was decapitated and strung up into the detainer. Further research is ongoing. Regardless of a person's preferences, Z1223 is always recognizable to them as their wife. The Valgula Void Mass, ZVO, codename Valgula Void Mass, is a gigantic mass of nothingness, spawning endless sentient puddle spawns from its dark and disgusting abyss. Discovered on the interior of a 30-stud radius asteroid that fell into the Atlantic Ocean in 1991, ZVO was a mere glowing rock measuring 2 studs in radius. The mass quickly began to expand on its own and was transported into the black site before it could reach critical mass. Abstract Art, codename Z538, codename Abstract Art, a harmless sentient statues made of concrete and rubber. So for now, we're actually done with the documents. However, the next few will be just a couple examples of stuff I found throughout the game. Anyways, let's get one of the abstract art statues. This is one of the underwater threats, which are parasitic bugs. These are green torches and lamps that you can actually follow through multiple paths that will lead you the correct way you're supposed to go. Actually even get a badge and an equipable jumpsuit for this one too. This is one of the crates that you can find throughout the facility. This is a DNA structure. It's worth $50. This is a skeleton. There are multiple of him in one area, and you can actually buy healing drinks from him. Computer that describes the status of the black site. Black site lockdown. All remaining personnel are to head to any escape pods or hunker in emergency shelters if necessary. Facility integrity, 78%. Crystal secure. External pressure, 24%. Containment status, it's Jover. Protocol expendable in progress. This is a weird hammer you can find in one of the rooms. This is not lore relevant at all. It's just a statue you can get. It's one of the awards the creator got. And this is the file you get at the end of the game. And this is the ending cutscene if you beat the game. The moment you arrive at a dock, a heavily armed guardsman forcibly takes the crystal container from you and brings it to an old, decrepit-looking, disgusting man in a wheelchair with tank treads instead of wheels. He then opens the container to show it to the man. You don't quite hear what he says to the guard. As other guards are leading you into a locker room to get a new change of clothing. After putting on some civilian attire, you are escorted in a military vehicle. You put in the backseat with a fellow guardsman, as another guardsman gets into the driver's seat. 12 minutes after leaving, the guardsman next to you gets a notification on his phone, takes it out, and starts reading something from it. And Mr. Shade would like to thank you personally. Can someone find the record for the prisoner's name? For your valiant effort in completing your task unscathed, your criminal record has been purged, and the money has been deposited to your bank account under the guise of reprimands for false imprisonment. A fake news story will be published shortly to clear your image in whichever community you originated from. He then puts his phone away and says nothing for the remainder of the drive. After a few hours, the car arrives at Vagar Airport. The guardsman next to you begrudgingly hands his phone to you and says, "Plane tickets are on here. The password is blank." As you're about to exit through the passenger door, the driver clears his throat and says, "Don't bother telling anyone about what you saw. No one's gonna believe you anyways." And that's how the game ends. Anyways, now that we've all talked about all the evidence, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a few of my theories. So first of all, this is obviously like an SCP type of thing. They're containing different entities. It seems like they actually discovered the entities when they built their base here. The wheelchair treads guy, which is what I'm going to be calling him from now, Mr. Tank Chair, that's what I'm going to call him, seems to know more than a lot more than we think he does. My guess is he knew about these creatures, and that's why he wanted to build the site here. Then they contained the creatures as they went along, and continued to conduct research from then. One day, Sebastian Solis stole the thing, broke out, and freed all the monsters, causing the site to lock down. Then, a little while after, we were sent in to clean up the mess. Now, that seems pretty correct to me, in my opinion, but I don't know. There could be some new evidence that comes out. The game isn't fully finished, as far as I know. Oh, by the way, and Sebastian Solis is the shopkeeper. The guy from the document at the beginning, he is actually the shopkeeper, which I will be showing on my screen now. So, yeah. Anyways, that was all. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe if you did. Don't forget to ring that bell and make a comment. And I will see you guys next time.